Okay.
All right, so this is the impromptu extemporaneous aviation discussion number 2 today. Glad to do this for Chris. This is the C124 cargo airplane from the 1950s. I was telling Chris it's like a flying barn. Not all that long compared to some airplanes, but very tall and boxy. You can see from the front the two clamshell doors that they would open up to allow people and cargo to be loaded, including wheeled vehicles and other types of equipment to be put in. And you can see the little button nose on the front. That is actually a radar. It didn't exist on every C124, but most, I think, had them by the time they had progressed in service. Normally would go up the ramps. Obviously the museum prefers the stairs that they have fabricated from the door. Let's go inside and take a look. Large clamshell doors. You can see the hooks on one side and that catch this on the other. Not exactly as nice as some of the modern, but still it was very functional and definitely worked. These flew a lot of hours. You can see all the plumbing, wiring, and cabling all runs along the sides. This is a wooden flight deck. It is not metal with the nice rollers and stuff that you would see on modern transports, be they military or civilian today, the cargo airplanes. But they did have the tie-down hooks. You're starting to see the modernization bringing about things that are still in principle, still in use and effect today. One ladder to the flight deck. The main ladder is here straight above our heads that could come down, and then there were hatches that would take you up to the flight deck. Unfortunately, patrons here are not able to see that. There would be a pilot, co-pilot, flight engineer station. Amazing, just all the variety of instrumentation they have, still very analog at that point. Windows looking out on the engines. These are the same engines that powered the B-36 and the B-50. They are some of the largest reciprocating engines that were used by the United States Air Force. Up on the level surface, if you look up, there's an upper deck that can be lowered from both sides. On the port side, there are legs that would come down, so the port would be just slightly underneath where they came together, so that both sections then would stand on these legs, and you could have a double-decker configuration if your cargo mission called for that, or you could simply leave them up and maybe have taller pieces of cargo in here, whatever fitted. And you're starting to see the numbering down the sides that tells you how many inches from the front that you are, where your tie downs are, and then of course the weight and balance charts from there. And look out over the wings. There is just behind Chris, there's an over the wing emergency exit. But if you look down on the floor, there are hatches that allow you to go down into a pit that's in the belly underneath, and from that pit you could go out into the wing during flight and service the engines. The generators were especially temperamental, and you could go out and service that engine. The inboard engines keep going, go over top of the landing gear and climb out into a recess in the outer nacelle and service the outer engine in the middle of flight. Kind of interesting. Unique. The C124 had two ways of loading. First of all, we've seen the clamshell doors on the front, but it also had this crane system that would allow a load such as the one they have featured here, which would be a typical load that a plane like this might carry. Spare parts, spare engines for planes just like this one. Each corner has the cables. At the top you can see the cranes, that gantry on a rail could move it forward or back, but there are doors underneath the belly of the airplane that open, something like a bomb bay, would open up, and this whole platform would descend down to the tarmac. You would load cargo such as this, raise it. If you wanted to stow it here during flight, you just leave it, or if because of weight and balance issues with the rest of your load, you could move it forward or back depending on what you wanted to do with that, or where it needed to be. And then of course the tie downs, and we're starting to see all that become very routine. On the sides for personnel, you have the fold down benches and the web seats, still in use in military cargo and transport airplanes today. Fold them up out of the way when you don't need them. You got people, and planes like this could take a mixture of cargo and people on a flight. At the back of the airplane, which Chris may have to come over here into that corner, there are bunks for the crew members. There's also a little galley back there.
I see it now, yeah.
And so there's more back there than what we can access to get to see. But obviously for longer range flights, and these were capable of pretty long range flights. Again, I'm sorry, this is extemporaneous, so I don't have every fact and detail researched in off my head here. So very versatile. Flew a lot of missions. You'd think by looking at them that they would have been obsoleted pretty quickly, but they really did a lot of work. There were some other airplanes that were perhaps maybe a little bit more advanced that didn't have the time in service that this aircraft did. But it is definitely a 1950s airplane. It's really just a B-29 built up, beefed up, and a bigger cargo bay on it in a lot of ways.
Yeah.